be in my masculine all the time, or even the level of masculine I was in at the time, which was not as much as it could have been. I had to shift, and I had to create so much more spaciousness in my life. And that was inspiring and also terrifying because I had never done it. I had never run a business in another way.
Welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. And today is going to be an incredible day because you're going to get to meet someone who has, against all odds, created something so incredibly, almost like you are going to be able to set the path in motion as you hear from her, because that's what she does. Her name is Amira Alvarez. She is the founder and CEO of the Unstoppable Woman. Amira is truly a powerhouse in the world of personal development and business coaching. She's known for actually helping high-achieving women reach new heights. So you're already knowing why I love these types of conversations. She's developed a really unique methodology that blends ambition with personal well-being. And that is when you know you have it all. So Amira, welcome to the Relaunch Podcast. It is so great to have you.
Thank you so much for having me, Hilary. That was a great intro. I really appreciate that. You summed it up really, really, really well. Thank you.
Well, it's easy to do because I've had the pleasure of getting to know you, and you are really unstoppable. And what I want to be able to share with the listeners is your relaunch journey, right? There's always those twists and turns, and we don't just have one, we have so many. But there is one that really was significant for you, and it led you to the path that you're on and where you are today. And that's the one I'd love for you to share with everyone listening.
I'd be happy to. I'd love to share that. And I'd also love to share, what it used to mean to me to be an unstoppable woman and what it does now after this relaunch, this reconfiguration, this remodeling, revisioning of my work in this world, what I'm here to do.
That's great. Yeah, I got to tell you, I love that because we do define things differently. I define relaunch differently than I used to. So let's start there. That's awesome.
Yeah. So the initial download for the concept of the unstoppable woman, and really it was a download. It came to me one day. I'm like, okay, we're trademarking this. Let's go. Right. And it was, no belief, no internal mindset, no external challenge is going to stop you from achieving what you desire, really like going after your goals. And it had, as much as I talked about creating ease and all these things, it had a hard driving edge to it because, at least for me, in my beginning years in business, I really had to learn how to do the thing even when I didn't feel like doing the thing. Like when I was growing my business, I could very easily get mired into like, well, that doesn't feel right. My intuition's not saying this. I can't do it. And then I wouldn't make any sales, right? Like if I didn't challenge myself, right? If I didn't challenge myself to move beyond the beliefs that were driving the inaction around sales, around marketing, whatever, the visibility, we all have visibility gremlins, right? We want to be, maybe we don't want to be perfect. I don't want to be perfect anymore, but I used to want to be perfect, right? Like there was all sorts of stuff that would stop me. And so that brand was really that, okay, like you got to do the thing even when you have this identity, this belief that you can't. And I really remodeled.
You were powering through it. Power through it. Very much, flexing your masculine muscle. Just get it done.
Absolutely. Lots of belief work, lots of inner game work as well. But ultimately, push comes to shove, you have to do the thing. And, we've learned in our society that to have a successful business, there's a certain amount of pushing the boulder up the hill until you get the momentum going that has to happen. And what happened for me was I just stayed in that grind too long. I loved it. I mean, I think this is the hook for a lot of really ambitious women, is that they love their drive. I love my drive. I love my work ethic. I love my go hard. There's something really sexy about it, like saying you did the thing, right? And like being más macho than anyone else, right? Like we're one of the few who can really do it, and that was very satisfying. But then there came a point, and this is where the relaunch comes in. There came a point where that was just no longer satisfying. And let me speak to that on a number.
Can we just say it's exhausting?
That's exactly what I wanted to say.
And as you're saying, and it was funny, you're saying, pushing that boulder up the mountain, there's a point where you see someone pushing something up. It does not get easier when you're pushing something up. It doesn't. The only thing that's going to make it easier is when all of a sudden that boulder rips away from you and it starts to go backwards and you feel like, wait, I've just taken so many steps back.
Yeah.
And I know that we all can it's just exhausting.
It's totally exhausting. And here's the thing that I've learned is that women are born with a certain amount of testosterone, and it's less than men, but we go harder than men. Like in most cases, I know that's kind of shocking. I never realized that, but until much later in my career, but we work longer hours. We don't rest. Like my man, he works hard, but when he's tired, he goes takes a nap. I would not take a nap. I would power through. I would just go. He rejuvenates. So women are.
So can I just say something really funny? You're
Yeah.
gonna die when I won't. So my next interview is John Gray.
Oh, the guy great. I love it.
The guy who created the whole concept around, men need their cave.
Yeah.
Where are women's caves? When do we get to go into our cave?
I think we have to really. I think we rejuvenate in different ways. Personally, I don't think I'll answer that in a number of ways. One, I create a cave for myself. I have solid amounts of hours in the morning to myself. I get up super early.
Now you do. You do, but you used to not.
It's more and more now, but I've always did. That was the only thing that probably got me through, but I still used up all my testosterone. So let me go back to that point. I would go hard, and you use up all your testosterone, and then you start using your adrenals that's your backup testosterone. And then when that's gone, you don't have the energy. And you're looking at your business, and you're looking, at least I was, and I was saying, I keep, hitting a wall every day. Sometimes it was at 2 p.m, and I could kind of justify it and say, I'm a little tired and I'll take the afternoon off. And sometimes it was at 10 a.m, and I was like, this is unsustainable. I cannot use the same MO that I did previously to run my business. I just physically don't have it in me. But I didn't know the hormone side of things until much later. So
how long ago was this?
I think it was sporadic for 4 or 5 years that I would be hitting this energy block, but I have a lot of will, and I have a lot of determination. I'm pretty effing stubborn, like many women. I wasn't getting the message. Eventually, I went on a spiritual journey, which is what I now teach women how to create an exquisite life that integrates your ambition and all the things that you want, and without having to do that kind of grind. And I had to work out a lot of things, and it was over many years. But ultimately, I went on this journey, and I learned how to create the time and space for myself. And it started with it was after I had put on an event, a small intimate event for a number of women, and I went to my friend's house in the hills of Sedona, and she has the beautiful house overlooking the Red Rocks. It was gorgeous, and she's my best girlfriend, who's also a founder, also in business, also committed to her success. And she asked me, well, how would you reimagine your business if you could do that. And of course, I've asked other women this question so many times, but there's something about when someone you really care about asks you something potent and you're open, you feel safe to answer that. And what I said shocked me, and it was radically different than what I was doing. I was part of this entrepreneurial group with a bunch of like really kick-ass men who I loved, and I loved their energy and their vitality and their go hard and how they were building things, and they were building businesses at scale, right? And so I was like, okay, we're going to get to 10 million doing this, right? And I was creating this business and I was like, oh my God, I hate this. This is not, I mean, I didn't hate it. Like there were aspects of it. I love the women. I love the challenge, all of that sort of stuff. And this is really important piece. I want to underscore this for you, for your listeners, is that I think for really ambitious women, like we don't have I don't like it. Like I own this personal responsibility. Like this is, I love this work. Like, of course I love it. And so it's not like you're waking up every day saying, I chose something I hate. No, like you chose something you loved, but then you realize, oh, this is not the right fit for me at all. Because quite frankly,
you know what this reminds me of? There's a book, The E-Myth Revisited. It talks about the baker who starts their business and then they do a lot of baking. It gets really successful to the point where now we're scaling. They bring in other people to start baking, and the baker no longer is baking. They're running a business, and it's very, very, very different. And so you stop doing what you love. You stop doing like, why did I start this in the first place? You don't have that motivation, right? That you had at the very beginning, the excitement, the butterflies. And so did you find that, because it does, you get worn out. Entrepreneurship, we talked about it. It's not for the faint of heart.
Absolutely. So I think the distinction for me is I've always been the baker and the business person, right? I've always been the trusted advisor, the mentor, the coach for women, and the owner, founder, operator of the business. I've got team, but I run a team. I was that then, I am that now. The difference is I love working with super smart, really intelligent, run circles around everyone else, ambitious women who don't want to be talked down to, want to be spoken to at their level. And I like doing that in an intimate form, meaning one-on-one or very small group. We do an Exquisite Life Plan event that is a very small 7 to 10 person group, and it's phenomenal, right? We have a mastermind called the Exquisite. It's exquisite. It's small. It's intimate, right? And I didn't want to build an 80 person, 100 person thing. That works for a lot of people, but
you're sitting with your, one of your best friends overlooking the beautiful Sonoma Valley, and you've just come off of an event. She asked you the question, and at that point you're like, wait a second, what did I just say? What did I just answer?
Yeah. And so then I had to create it.
Just remind me, what were you building at that time?
Yeah, I was building an 80 to 100 person mastermind group program. I realized I don't feel satisfied. And this is an important piece for women. We want to feel satisfied. I did not feel the women in the program were getting great results. The women in the program were doing great. I didn't feel satisfied without that connection. And that was me. It's not someone else. I'm not saying that this is the right way, right? Everyone has a unique
but
setup.
There is the importance of what you're saying, though, is there has to be that connection.
For me.
I think if people are struggling, if people are feeling stuck, if people aren't getting to where they ultimately want to be, usually there's a disconnect there.
Yeah.
Right? You're not. And so as you're saying, hey, it wasn't for you. Yeah. And if that's not happening, so you're opening up to your friend and you're like, Okay. And so what'd she say to you at that point?
Well, she was very supportive, but the changes happened over the next months and couple of years where I had to look at not only the business model, like, okay, well, how do you shift this? But I put in 10, 15 years of IP. We have so much created, like there's an emotional shift that has to happen. But the thing that really was the thing that pushed me to make the change, and this is either going to be very inspiring for people or it's going to alienate people. Okay. So I recognized that I had a core wound of being unlovable. If you're interested in knowing what core wounds are and how to move through them, on our website, theunstoppablewoman.com, we have it all written out. But I recognized I had this core wound of being unlovable. And what I wanted was, it wasn't that I hadn't been married. It wasn't that I hadn't been in relationships. It was that full feeling of total love and support. And so I went about creating that concurrent to this other relaunch my emotional life, my personal life, relaunch the business life. Sure. And I met a man who was exactly everything that I desired. And I realized that I couldn't run my business and be in the relationship that I desired to be in the same way, right? Like those were two separate things. Like if I wanted to be fully present, fully open, fully emotionally available, really being creating a relationship at a much higher consciousness than just dialing it in logistics and let's go out to dinner and it's date night. Like if I wanted an exquisite relationship, exquisite love, exquisite sex, all of that, I couldn't be in my masculine all the time, or even the level of masculine I was in at the time, which was not as much as it could have been. I had to shift. And I had to create so much more spaciousness in my life. And that was inspiring and also terrifying because I had never done it. I had never run a business in another way. So alienating, maybe people think, why should you change your business, change your life for a man, right? But it was something that I wanted badly enough.
I didn't take it that way. Yeah. I took it like what you're trying to do when you said your core wound was unlovable, and that what you're really in such desperation of finding in this lifetime, because life is so short, is this deep connection of love. Yeah. And so I found it to be a very beautiful thing that and I truly believe this, that your business is a direct reflection of you. And if you're feeling like you're always in your masculine, and I can relate to this because when I was single and I was just starting to date my husband, Eric, I was, right before I met him, going through like a terrible situation I talk about in my book about one of my board members doing a Ponzi scheme, and he ended up going to federal prison, but he took down the company. And I was in a very vulnerable, open place when I met Eric. He probably wouldn't have liked me when I was badass, right. The badass bitch coming in from the board meetings, and it wouldn't have meshed. He's a very powerful man, but the powerful, driven testosterone level, that wouldn't have been. Now it's a nice balance, right? But at that point, he saw my vulnerable side. So I love that you thought to yourself, in order to do this, exquisite, as you said, exquisite life.
And what I look for when I'm working with women is that thing, because it's not the core wound of unlovability for everyone, but what is the thing that's going to unlock everything else, right? Is the domino that starts the domino effect, because that's what unlocked it for me. And then it was a desire, a goal worth changing all these other things that up until then, I had a conscious awareness that I wanted to change. Oh, my vitality is low. My energy is low. I'm bonking. I don't have the wherewithal, or I don't want to keep driving at this level, but I don't know any other way of building a business, right?
But Amir, how did you map? Because you even said this. A lot of people don't know what that core wound is, or what's really holding them back. They don't. Yeah. And for a while you didn't know. How did you figure out that was actually what you needed to work on?
Yeah. Okay. So again, remember when I said I was really stubborn and it takes me a long time? Okay. So I've known for a long time that my core wound is being unlovable. Okay. Mm-hmm. I didn't want to deal with it though for the longest time. Finally, I was willing that it was no longer tolerable for me not to deal with it. Okay. And here's the truth. For many women, they know, but they've suppressed it. Okay.
And interesting. So what you're saying is if they really look hard as a woman, you can get to it because whatever is missing. I believe that, because I can say, as I was looking when you said that, I'm like, mine wouldn't be unlovable, but mine would be that feeling of belonging.
Yeah.
Divorce, family, back and forth. Where do I belong? So I get that. I
think we all know Hilary, but here's the thing. If you're listening and you're like, I don't know, ask yourself this question. What is the thing that has always come up again and again and again for you? It's a pattern. Okay. I can't, oftentimes for people, I can't trust anyone. Okay. And then they have superwoman status, right? They don't let anyone support them. Okay. Mm-hmm. These are, like, I outlined the 7 shadows of success. We talked about that, I think, a little bit, right? And yeah. Good. And that's one of them, right? Is like, okay, well, that might be a core wound of trust. Okay. So what are the challenges you keep coming across? A lot of people, a trust example would be they've been embezzled from, and this person broke this partnership, and this person did this thing, right? And you keep having a pattern in your life, and you think that because you're in the forest for the trees, right? You're inside of that. You think that's just how life is. But it's not. Okay. So I just thought, you don't really have deep relationships with men. It's fine to be greatly partnered and have a nice, friendly relationship, but not have great sex, right? Like, I just was like, that's just what everyone's doing. Like, when you have back pain, you think everyone's got back pain. Like, it's just this weird thing that we as humans,
the stories that back up your stories.
Yeah. And we just see the world through our own eyes. We all do this. This is human. But I'm telling you, whatever your pattern of the world's against me in this way, or this is not working for me in this way, it's not the case. The world is not that way. It's just a reflection of the core wound that you have. And sometimes that takes some conversation. I love having those conversations with people. So if they're interested in that conversation, please, look us up.
Well, and I think it's interesting because where you talk about the core wounds, I talk about limiting beliefs. I call them bugs, beliefs underground surfacing. And they're so woven together. And the conversation that you're willing to have with people, it's a conversation, and we can't see our blind spots. There's a reason, right? And so you being a professional and seeing what others can't, you can get to it very quickly of what you and why. And I think that's what makes you so good at what you're doing. When you think about this opening up and deciding I'm going to do this different type of business, it immediately flourished. Like, it just took off because it was so in alignment with you. Where are you today with it? What's coming up for you in the future around it?
Yeah. So I will say that it was a long time of really, like, giving myself the space to articulate the new business. And when the idea of the exquisite life came forward, I was like, okay, that's it. We're building it around this. And then that's been super fun to really flesh that out and be speaking about it and get clearer and clearer, and really build a business around this idea that an exquisite life is not this either or thing, right? It's not either I get to have this ambition in my business, or I get to have great health, or I get to have a great relationship, or I get to feel beautiful. Like it's all of that. And we think that if we work really hard in our businesses, as a result, we'll get the other things, but that's just not true. Okay. It doesn't, you have to create them. So now the business is doing amazing, and we've really built a whole set of offerings that are for the ambitious leader in corporate, executive person who's really willing to invest in herself. She's at the stage where she's like, okay, my career is to a certain place, and now me, right? Or my career's to a certain place, and I'm getting burnt out, or it's no longer enough to climb the corporate ladder. I'm afraid that I'm going to lose my gravy train, right? My income, right? Now how do I do that sustainably? Or for the CEO founder person of their own business. And what's beautiful is that the shift is, women are really resonating with this idea of, okay, I can look at my life wholly. I don't have to look just for a business coach or just for someone to help me with these other aspects of my life, but let's look at it as a whole, because I don't want to give up one for the other. Like that's just
so well said.
Yeah. Like
we shouldn't have to.
We shouldn't have to.
So let me ask you this question. You think about Brene Brown. She's known for vulnerability.
Yeah.
You think about Gabby Bernstein, the universe has your back. You think about Amy Porterfield and course creation, B School, Marie Forleo. What do you want to be known for?
The exquisite life.
Having that exquisite life.
Yeah, absolutely. 100%.
And I got to tell you, we all deserve it. And we can all make choices to get there, right?
Yeah.
So when somebody comes and starts to work with you in the initial stages, I know you have lots of different programs, but for those that haven't started their journey yet to go towards an exquisite life, they're still trying to just get through the life they've got right now. And they're like, it's not that exquisite to me right now. What do you suggest they do? What are some tips that they can really okay, I can do that. I can start working on that today.
Oh, I love that question. So I think that the level of honesty with which you approach this is what's going to create the amount of growth that you have. Okay? Because if you lie to yourself about everything being fine, or I don't need help, or I can do it on my own, or whatever it is. There's all sorts of stories like it's okay because of this, or this is my initiative right now, or I need to focus on this first. I say these things because I've heard them, and quite frankly, I've said them to myself, right? Many times.
Right. Yeah.
That just gets in your way. So I would pay attention to the stories that keep you from having a level of truth with what's going on with yourself. I would look at where you get busy, where you start getting where do you, what I see happen a lot is you're very ambitious, you set a goal, you start achieving it. Maybe you've hired a new team, that you've got them trained, your sales team's going well, your COO's going well, doing their thing. You have all this extra time and space. Okay. And you start getting antsy there because you don't know how to be in that space without creating more chaos, more work, another initiative. Now, this is a shadow of success. The positive side is you're creating a 7-figure, 8-figure, 9-figure business, 10 figures even, right? Maybe even more, right? Like this shadow drives you. Yeah. So you're like, I don't want to give that up because that's what's creating this amazing success. I would look right in that spot, okay, where you're about to fill the void, and ask yourself, what am I running away from?
What a great question to ask. Yeah. What do you find most people? What are you hearing a lot about what people are running away from?
Oftentimes it's, this again, levels of honesty with yourself. There's more surface level, which is, I don't like to be bored, or I always like to be busy, or, they might even say it's a bad marriage and they like to keep busy, all of that stuff, right? Underneath the surface, though, this is where the core wounds come into play, right? If I'm not successful, if I'm not busy, that's how I've gotten my sense of self and my accolades, my status, my importance. If I don't do that, who am I? Okay.
That's very true for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Busy being busy, but they feel very comfortable in that zone.
Yeah. And yet they want something else. If they're honest, they want something else, and they're doing this work to fill that void. And then they know that there's a level of, we're smart women, okay? There's a level of awareness around that. But then we think, if I give that up, am I going to give up my success? And that's where we just go and start building again. And we don't actually solve that root cause issue. That when you solve that root cause issue, you can do both. You can have that solved. It's no longer this thing that's eating you from the inside, if you will, that you keep pushing away, right? And okay, I'll deal with that later, or I never want to deal with that. I mean, you actually solve that, so you feel fulfilled, and you're able to be ambitious and successful and grow your business. It's not, I just want to emphasize again and again and again, it's not either or. Does it have to change? Does your MO have to change? Absolutely. But it's not either or.
I will tell you, 10 years ago, I went from really coaching in a very head-based way, facts, figures, steps, statistics, and moved into more of ancient wisdom, universal laws, intuition. I call it 3HQ, head, heart, highest self. And when I did that, I went from liking what I'm doing, seeing the success, to loving.
Yeah.
Because I was willing to not just be the girl from Silicon Valley that has a business coaching, blah, 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 blah. It was much more heartfelt at that point.
Yeah.
And so as we're wrapping up here, what's the main point that you want to get across to people? And then I'd love for you to share how they can find you.
Sure. So I think the main point is really that you don't have to give up your ambition to live exquisitely. Like we've been told it's an either or thing. You can have both. You can have it all. Now, it's not a pat, like you can have it all like a freaking marketing campaign ad commercial. Okay. It's not that. It's that you have to lean into the discomfort that facing some of these challenges is going to bring up for you. And this is where it's true that you have to stay unstoppable, right? You still have to lean in, right? You still have to face those limiting beliefs, those challenges, those things. You have to have a lived experience of doing it differently. Nothing changes until you live differently, but that it's totally possible and that it's unique for each individual. There's a methodology that I teach, that I work, but it's applied to your unique life. right? And you have the capability to make this happen. And I'd love, if this is resonating with you, I'd love to show you how to do that, right? Like walk you through that. And you can find out more on our website, which is theunstoppablewoman.com. If you want to have a conversation with me, I love unpacking core wounds. So book a call, and we'll do that in your little our first call together. And if you want to just know more about this, there's a download on the website for core wounds. We have some teachings on that. And then our podcast, the Unstoppable Woman podcast, which you will be on shortly, which is great, is a great place. Aside from our amazing guests, I do a lot of teaching content on that podcast. And I think that's a great resource as well.
Amira, thank you for being here. Thank you for opening up and sharing some of the things that I think people are genuinely really interested in. What is holding us back? How can you end up having this exquisite life, being unstoppable, but in such a way that it doesn't deplete you? Because, unstoppable kind of means like, oh, you're on that hamster. But no, it's unstoppable because that's the radiant energy that you're putting forth, and that you can tell that's what you're putting forth right now. So again, thank you so much for being here. And for everyone listening, just remember, you're hearing it over and over: live now, love now, relaunch now into that remarkable place that you then can leave your mark on life and in your business and on this world, this planet, which, as we continue to hear, is not as big as we think it is. And so go back to the show notes, get more of this incredible information that you've heard today, and use it. Don't just think about it, but get involved in it. If it resonated, come back, tell us, this is awesome, this is amazing, and that you're going to activate and move forward in your relaunch. We'll see you next week, everyone. Bye-bye. If you like this video and want to get more like it, head over here.